She turned her back on her country. That was the quote my father used to toast the wine at our last family dinner. I was sitting right there. My name is Elena Moreau. I'm 35 years old, born into 4 generations of uniformed service. Navy blood runs so deep in my family that even the toddlers in our clan know how to say, "Aye, sir," before they say, "Mama." And yet, when I chose to serve differently, not with a rifle or steering a destroyer, but behind encrypted lines, intercepting whispers no one was meant to hear, I became a pariah in my own home. Have you ever sat at a table full of people who share your DNA, but feel more like a spy in enemy territory than a daughter? If you've ever been exiled not by law but by blood, then maybe you'll understand what I'm about to share. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. If you've ever had to rebuild your life after betrayal, leave a comment with your location and time, because healing starts with being heard. Now, let's listen to my story journey. It's the night before my deployment, and I'm already regretting coming home. My mother insisted on hosting a send-off dinner. In her mind, that meant crystal glasses, stuffed lobster, and silver polished to a shine so bright it reflects every tense glance exchanged around the table. My father, retired Captain Gerard Moreau, sits at the head like he's still on a bridge, back straight, voice controlled, presence quietly lethal. Beside him is my younger brother Jace, the golden boy. Naval aviation. He was just promoted to lieutenant commander. Everyone's favorite. His shoulders still sore from the medal he received 2 weeks ago. Then there's me, wearing civilian clothes because my uniform, with its ambiguous insignia and non-combatant title, was deemed impolite, confusing, perhaps even embarrassing. "So, this assignment?" my cousin Trevor begins, carving into his steak. "Where are you actually going? Or is that all classified too?" I smile without teeth. "It's a joint task force, not exactly public-facing work." "Aha," he says with mock drama, raising his wine. "To our very own shadow." Jace laughs. My mother attempts to soften the moment. "Elena's doing important things. We don't need to know the details to be proud." But my father clears his throat. "Is it true you're embedding with the Global Coordination Unit?" I nod. "Yes. It's a multinational intelligence team, mostly humanitarian protection, but also digital surveillance, comms support, tracking irregular fleet movements." He sets down his fork, slowly. "So, in short, you're siding with the bureaucrats." "I'm serving the country, Dad," I say, keeping my voice calm. "Just not in the way you did." "And not in the way this family understands," he replies, eyes hard. "You know what those coalitions do. You're giving away American access codes to foreign boots. That's not what this is." He leans in. "You're protecting enemy waterlines under the flag of global unity. That's not defense, Elena. That's diplomacy. And that's politics." I can feel my heart starting to pound. I glance at Jace. He looks down at his plate. "I followed my orders," I say. "I went where they needed someone who could read 7 languages and decrypt under pressure. That's how I serve." A silence follows. Not the heavy kind. Worse, the dismissive kind. "Well," my Aunt Clara says brightly, "at least someone will be able to explain international policy at the next reunion." That draws polite laughter. My mother smiles too hard. I look to my father. One last time. His glass rises. "To Jace," he says clearly. "A real Navy man. Who knows what side he's on?" I hear it. They all hear it. But no one says a word. My throat tightens. I excuse myself before the toast ends. No one stops me. That night, I sleep in my childhood room, surrounded by faded ribbons from math competitions and little paper medals my mother once hung on the walls when I built my first radio at 12. At dawn, I leave before anyone wakes. My duffel bag slung over one shoulder, orders in hand, teeth gritted. That's the last time I set foot in that house for over 4 years. 2 months into deployment, I send a letter home. A real one, handwritten. Inside, I describe the way the Indian Ocean feels at 3 a.m. when your only company is radar blips and unanswered pings. I write about the officer who hasn't seen his daughter in 5 years. I include a sketch of the moon reflected on the carrier deck. I never hear back. Jace doesn't reply to my emails either. He used to respond with memes and flight selfies. Now, nothing. I ask my mother during our once-a-month voice call. Her answer is vague. Oh, you know your brother. Busy. But then I hear it, off mic, my father in the background talking to someone else. She turned her back on her country. Let her write poems to the enemy. That line sticks to me like salt water in an open wound. It echoes in the metal halls, in the hum of encrypted files loading onto my tablet, in every debriefing where I'm not permitted to speak aloud what I've just translated. They think I betrayed something. What they don't see is what I protect. Silently. Every single day. 2 years pass. I go from one assignment to another like a ghost in combat boots. Never in the photos, never in the headlines. My job is to listen where no one else can, to see signals hidden in noise. I decode whispers of betrayal, anticipate movements that could lead to bloodshed, and redirect danger through silent interventions no one ever knows I made. But there's something strange about being erased from your own family. You start wondering if you ever really existed in their story, or if you were just written out the moment you took a different road. One night, I'm stationed at a listening outpost off the Mediterranean, cross-referencing chatter between 2 vessels with unmarked flags. The data's dirty, full of misinformation. It's exactly the kind of thing I was trained for. I'm 3 steps ahead, already layering the signals before my CO even walks in. Moreau, he says, placing a classified envelope on my desk. Your work's being pulled into Senate intelligence. Don't ask me how. Something's coming. Tighten up. I nod, not yet understanding the full storm ahead. That night, I write another letter home, handwritten, like the first. I try a different tone, this time less poetic, more personal. Jace, I begin. I get it. You think I crossed a line. Maybe I did. But I'm still out here. Still protecting people. Still wearing the flag you think I tarnished. I include a photo, me in uniform, standing under a war-torn radar mast we just salvaged from a strike zone. The sky behind me is split with smoke. I look tired. Real. I send it with no expectations. Weeks pass. No reply. And then I hear from someone who shouldn't know anything at all. Lieutenant Moreau, a soft voice says from my comms panel. It's an encrypted call. This is Rear Admiral Sylvia Knox. We haven't met, but I've read your fieldwork. I wanted to personally inform you. Your last operation has been pulled into congressional review. I freeze. Ma'am? There's concern, she says delicately, that your data intercepts may have interfered with foreign diplomatic channels. We know the intelligence was clean. But politics, Lieutenant, politics makes enemies out of heroes every day. She's kind, but it doesn't matter. Because within 48 hours, my name is on every defense blog in the country. Anonymous source tied to rogue intelligence leak within multinational fleet. No one says my name out loud, but I know it's me. The smear begins subtly, think pieces speculating whether overzealous data officers are compromising operational neutrality. Then op-eds calling for greater oversight of embedded codebreakers. Then a leaked cable, the kind you can only get from someone who wants to see you burn, misquotes my report, twisting it into something it was never meant to be. Suddenly, I'm the face of quiet betrayal. The irony is unbearable. I never broke protocol. I never handed over anything. I kept people alive with numbers and timing and instinct, but none of that matters now. The next day, I get a message on my secure inbox. From Elena Moreau. Subject: You did this. Body: Don't write again. I stare at the screen for a long time, then I delete it. They take me off the primary roster. Not suspended, just sidelined. No one says it out loud, but it's the same thing. They move me to an offshore vessel monitoring inactive traffic routes. I go from intercepting hostile code to logging fishing boats and tanker drift reports. It's like being buried alive in bureaucracy. My quarters are cold. The lights flicker. I sleep with my gear on half the time because the storms are so rough. One night, after a 14-hour shift of nothing, I sit on the edge of my bunk and whisper, "Was it worth it?" No one answers. Just the groan of steel and the slap of rain against the port window. And then, of course, the real nightmare begins. The Gideon, a vessel carrying sensitive diplomatic passengers and classified surveillance gear, is hit en route back to port. No one claims the strike, but we know where it came from. The ship goes dark, comm lines severed, GPS off-grid. Everyone on board is presumed missing. But I know better. I've read the patterns. The jamming signatures match a type we once traced to a ghost faction that doesn't officially exist. I gather the fragments, half a code here, a ping there, and I begin to rebuild their trail. No one asks me to. I'm not even on the mission. But I can't look away. I stay up for 41 straight hours. No one sees me, but I find them. The Gideon is trapped between two hostile zones, engines crippled, and if they take the western escape route, they'll be swallowed whole. No extraction team will make it in time. There's only one path they can take, a sliver between mines, black water currents, and unauthorized coastal radar. I send the coordinates through a dark channel, unsigned. Then I sit back and wait, like a ghost with a compass. The next morning, a senior officer knocks on my door. "We don't know how," he says, "but they made it through." And then, with a look that holds something I haven't seen in months, respect, he adds, "Someone gave them the only shot that worked." No one says my name, but I don't need them to. Because for the first time in months, I know I still exist. 2 days later, I'm transferred to a secure debriefing facility off the southern coast. No explanations, just a quiet order and a black chopper waiting at dawn. Inside the hangar, I sit at a table across from 3 people in uniform. One of them is Rear Admiral Sylvia Knox. Her face is carved from calm granite, unreadable but not unkind. She places a folder in front of her, taps it once, then looks at me. "You saved 128 lives, Lieutenant," she says softly. "You disobeyed a direct operational boundary to do it." I keep my voice steady. "I followed the data, ma'am. It didn't lie." She glances at the others. "It's being called the Ghost Map Maneuver. Some are already drafting it into training doctrine." I blink. "I didn't mean to make a name for it." "That's how real work is done," she replies. Quietly, in shadows, and usually by people who don't get statues. She folds her hands. "You're being cleared. Internally. But I need you to understand. This won't hit the headlines. There's too much at stake politically. You'll be praised quietly, decorated off record." I nod. "And the smear campaign?" She gives a dry smile. "Already unraveling, but we won't be issuing a public apology. That's not how the system works. It just forgets. Eventually. Of course it does. I walk out of that debriefing with the weight of 2 years pressing into my spine. Vindication never quite tastes as sweet when it's whispered behind closed doors. But it's something. Until I check my inbox. Subject: "We saw the news." From Mom. That's all it says. We saw the news. No apology. No question. Not even a greeting. Just confirmation that they watched my name get dragged through the mud and never once picked up the phone. The ache returns. Heavier now. Not because I need their forgiveness, but because there's a wound that only family can inflict. A betrayal that doesn't bleed, but burns. For a while, I lose myself in the routine of rotation again. I stay on base, but the work changes. People who never made eye contact now ask for my input. Commanders defer to me in strategy sessions. Younger recruits whisper my name with reverence I didn't ask for. But the silence from my family feels louder with each passing month. Then, one night, my CO calls me into his office. "There's an award being issued next quarter," he says. "You've been shortlisted for commendation by Allied Fleet Command. Civilian observers will be present. It's not entirely optional." I hesitate. What does it mean? It means they finally want to pin a medal on the woman they tried to ghost. I almost laugh. "My father will love that." He tilts his head. "You can invite who you like. But you should know. The Admiral will be presenting it himself. And he requested you specifically." That catches me off guard. "Knox?" He nods. "And she wants it public this time." I take the envelope he hands me. Inside is a formal invitation, an official itinerary, and a list of guest allowances. I don't fill in my family's names, but I do stare at the blank lines longer than I want to admit. Weeks pass, the ceremony nears, and then, one afternoon, my phone rings. I stare at the screen. Jace, Mobile. I let it go to voicemail, but later, I press play. His voice crackles, lower than I remember. "Hey, I saw the fleet bulletin, the commendation. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I thought I should say something." There's a pause. Wind in the background. "I should have backed you. Back then. I thought Dad was right, but I was scared. You know how he is." Another pause. "I'm sorry. For staying quiet. For letting you carry all of it." And then, just before the beep, "Come home after. Even if it's just for a night." I sit there, phone warm in my hand, tears threatening to sting. Then another message. This one from my mother. Short, tentative. "Will they record it? Your ceremony? If you don't want us there, can we still watch?" And finally, the one I didn't expect. From Dad, subject line, blank body. "If I were still on active duty, I'd want you on my command bridge." That's all. It hits harder than I thought it would. No apology, just a sentence. Sharp, precise, but real. The kind of words that men like him hand out once in a lifetime. For the first time in 4 years, I allow myself to feel the full weight of what I've done, not just for the country or the operation, but for the girl in that childhood bedroom who left before sunrise, carrying more silence than luggage. I'm not going home yet, but something in me has already started walking back. The sea always speaks first in moments like this, low and guttural, like it's warning you to stay small. We're not halfway through our return run from the bearing line when everything goes black. No alarms, no sirens, just sudden, suffocating silence. I've trained for power cuts, cyber attacks, rogue jammers, even EMP pulses. But when all your equipment goes dead at once, including backup satellite beacons and long-wave reserve comms, you're no longer at the edge of danger. You're inside it. My breath freezes in my throat. It's night. Pitch. Cold and endless. The navigation deck is lit only by the faint emergency glow from the helm. The captain is already shouting for diagnostics, but the engineers are just shaking their heads. I look up at the black sky. No stars. Just shadows folding in on themselves. That's how I know we've been hit with a coordinated blackout. Not random. Not nature. Intentional. Targeted. We are not in friendly waters. The Athena, the vessel I've been reassigned to for temporary reassessment, is not a warship. She carries sensitive material. Intel backups, declassified models for transfer, international observers, and a civilian technician with 3 daughters who made us brownies before we left port. None of us are meant to be on the front line, and now we're sitting ducks. There's a backup nav system, but it requires manual plotting, star mapping, and, God help us, someone who can chart by memory. The young officer on shift says what everyone's thinking. We're not going to make it through. I don't remember standing. I just remember the sound of my boots moving toward the nav table, and my voice, calm and hollow. We can. But we'll have to ghost it. The captain stares at me. Ghost what? There's a backline corridor. Not on any official map. It's a graveyard route through decommissioned minefields and deactivated radar nets. No one uses it because no one's supposed to know it exists. And how do you know it? Because I built it. It was part of a black protocol I mapped over 2 years ago during the Silent Routes project. We cataloged rogue transit veins, the kind only smugglers or stateless warlords use. My section was never officially adopted. Too risky, too unstable, too inconvenient. But I remember every contour. The captain doesn't speak for a second. Then, that's suicidal. I nod. Only if we don't follow the coordinates exactly. He hesitates, then gives a slow nod. Command it. I blink. What? You know it. You drive it. Everyone else will follow your lead. Just like that. No badge of rank, no official clearance, just raw, terrifying necessity. I take the console. It's half dead. I scrawl coordinates on old grease-stained paper while shouting instructions to the engine room through a manual tube line. And then we begin. The corridor is pitch dark and paper thin. One wrong shift, one not too fast, and will trigger something that hasn't seen daylight in 30 years. I guide us by instinct, memory, and the kind of fear that sharpens into clarity. We slide past rusted towers that hum like old bones. Mines sway below us like sleeping gods. Each time a creak echoes through the hull, I bite my lip and keep steering. An hour in, we lose radar entirely. A civilian observer vomits in the hallway. One of the junior techs mutters a prayer over and over under his breath. I whisper nothing. I just keep steering. 2 hours in, a submerged obstruction grazes the starboard flank. Sparks fly. I don't even look. Maintain angle. 2 degrees east. I call. The captain nods, face pale. 3 hours in, we hit the final gate. The mouth of an old underwater trench. Once through it, we're back in safe waters, where signal returns, comms light up, and command can reach us again. But it's narrow, and it's closing. Currents have shifted since I last mapped it. We're too wide, someone says. We'll clear it, I say. Cut auxiliary systems, dump weight, bleed it dry. They do. We move. The hull screams as steel scrapes rock. The ship shudders like it's dying. And then, light. The radar chirps, navigation beeps, comms flicker. We're out. We made it. 128 souls on board. Every one of them alive. I collapse in the hallway, shaking, gasping, fingers bleeding from where I gripped the helm too hard. But we're home. We're home. An hour later, the captain calls the bridge to order. Everyone present. He clears his throat and says, "This crew made it through a corridor no one believed in, because one woman held the line." Then he steps aside. Rear Admiral Knox appears on the comms screen. She looks directly at me. "Elena Moreau," she says, "you just completed a recovery maneuver that's being called the most precise unsanctioned navigation in modern fleet history." She pauses. "You disobeyed rules to preserve life, and in doing so, you showed us what rules are for." And then she does something I will never forget. She salutes. A full formal salute. From an admiral to me. There is a moment of silence on the bridge. Then every officer follows. One by one. Until even the civilian tech, His voice shaking stands and raises his trembling hand. I try not to cry. I fail. They promote me quietly. No fanfare. No public statement. Just a sterile email with a digital commendation and an invitation to Fleet HQ for a formal recognition ceremony. My name appears on a list buried 5 links deep on the Department of Naval Operations site, just above a procurement request for valve parts. Still, my inbox fills with anonymous messages. "You're the one who got them home, right? My cousin was on the Athena. She says you never blinked. We owe you, even if they won't say it loud." I don't reply to most, but I read every single one. A few days later, Admiral Knox sends me a personal message. "I've pushed through your case for public commendation. You're on the docket for ceremony next month. I'm presenting it myself. Bring whoever you want, or don't. But I'd like to see your name reclaimed." Her words mean more than I can say, but I don't know what to do with them. That night, I stare at the invitation card again. It's heavy, made of thick stock, with the crest of the Allied command embossed in gold. There's space for guest names, up to 6. I write nothing. And yet, the next morning, I wake up with a different ache. Not in my body, in memory. My brother's voice, the last voicemail. Even if it's just for a night, the words linger, so I send a message. Simple, plain, to Jace. Subject: You asked body. Ceremonies in 3 weeks. I'm not asking you to come, but if you want to, I'll leave your name at the gate. He doesn't respond for days. Then he does. I'll be there. Dad might too. No promises. I read that last part 5 times. No promises. That's how it always was with my father. Promises were for men who believed in softness. He believed in orders, in rules, in sacrifice without sentiment. Maybe that's why he never saw me. A week before the ceremony, I get the call. Jace is gone. An accident during a night operation off the coast of Okinawa. Mechanical failure mid-flight. His co-pilot survived. He didn't. I stare at the officer delivering the news. Then I nod. Then I walk out. I don't cry right away. The grief is slow, creeping. It begins when I find the old voicemail. The last thing he said. His voice shaky, hesitant. "I'm sorry." Then the second wave hits. When I'm asked to deliver his folded flag to the family, I think about saying no. I really do. But some part of me knows that if I don't carry this weight, no one will. I return to the house I swore I'd never step foot in again. Everything is the same. The porch still sags in the middle. The door still creaks on the left. The smell of lemon oil and old metals still clings to the air like a ghost. My mother opens the door. She doesn't say a word, just folds me into her arms like the years never split us open. Inside, the living room is full of uniforms. Neighbors, friends, officers. My father stands near the mantel where Jace's flight photo has already been framed in black. I approach slowly, the flag in my hands, neatly folded, my fingers trembling slightly. He turns. His face is unreadable. I offer the flag. He doesn't take it right away, just stares at it, then at me. "I should have been harder on him," he says quietly. "Maybe then he wouldn't have flown in that damn weather." It's the closest thing I'll ever hear to grief from him. I wait. Then I speak. "He was proud of you, even when you didn't say the same back." He flinches. Then, for the first time in a decade, his voice cracks. "I was proud of both of you. I just didn't know how to show it when you chose different oceans." I hold the flag tighter. I didn't choose different. I chose deeper. That does it. He reaches out and takes the flag. Our hands touch. He doesn't hug me, but he stands beside me. That's his version of an embrace. Later, after the service, he walks me to the door. "You're still going through with the ceremony?" he asks. I nod. It's not about medals anymore. He's quiet. Then gruffly, your brother would have wanted to see it. So do I. I blink. He adds, looking past me, if the Admiral salutes you again, I'll be damned if I don't stand up too. Then he walks inside. Just like that. No grand apologies, no explanations, just his way of saying, come home. And maybe I already have. The morning of the ceremony is too quiet, the kind that makes your breath sound like thunder in your own chest. I sit on the edge of the hotel bed, half dressed in my formal blues, staring at a weathered photograph of Jace and me. He's 17, I'm 19. He's in his ROTC cadet uniform, grinning like an idiot. I'm in a hoodie, holding up his arm like he's already a war hero. We were so close back then, before duty made us strangers, before our choices carved oceans between us. I tuck the photo inside the inside flap of my breast pocket, over my heart, close, but not visible. When I arrive at the Fleet Command Hall, the line of people outside is longer than expected. There are journalists, military brass, even a handful of old allies from past deployments, and there, standing off to the side, my parents. My mother gives me a small nod. Her eyes are red-rimmed, but she's trying to stay composed. My father stands beside her in a dark suit, hands folded behind his back in that unmistakable military stance he's never let go of. His jaw is set, his gaze forward. He doesn't wave. But he's here. That's all I need to know. Inside, the hall is hushed, reverent. High ceilings, navy blue banners with gold trim. A projection screen looping silent footage of Allied vessels, patrols, rescues, storm recoveries, medals awarded. Then the Admiral takes the podium. Sylvia Knox. Sharp lines, silver hair, eyes like glass honed by fire. She speaks briefly of sacrifice, of invisible service, of duty that often wears no armor and casts no shadow. Then she gestures for me. Elena Moreau, she says, and her voice fills the room like the sea rising. The officer who navigated us through the corridor no one else could see. Who mapped the unspeakable and brought home 128 souls through waters designed to bury them. The room holds its breath. She continues, softer now. Some called her a traitor. Some said she abandoned her country, but it was her quiet courage, her disobedience, her vision, that preserved everything we still have the privilege of defending today. I walk slowly to the stage. The applause begins, hesitant at first, then building, wave after wave. I don't look at the crowd. Not until I reach her. The Admiral turns, holding the medal case. She opens it, takes the medal, pins it to my chest, and then she salutes, formally, publicly, then steps back and says the words I didn't know I needed to hear. Ma'am, you led us home. The hall goes still. Then something shifts. From the far side of the first row, a figure rises. It's my father. Not clapping, saluting. The same posture I saw him teach Jace, the same angle, the same gravity. His hand is shaking, but the gesture is perfect. For one long moment, all I see is him. No medals, no rank, no disappointment. Just a man saluting his daughter. I feel my throat tighten, but I stand tall, and I return the salute. Then something remarkable happens. Others stand. Not just military. Civilians, commanders, techs, analysts, even the press. One by one they rise, some clapping, some just watching. And in that sea of faces, for the first time in my life, I feel seen. Not as a shadow, not as a traitor, but as the woman who chose the deeper ocean and brought her people home. Later, when the crowd thins and the lights dim, I walk down the hall with my father. Neither of us speaks for a while. Then he says, "You knew they wouldn't make it through the trench without you, didn't you?" "I didn't know," I say. I just couldn't watch them die knowing I had the map. He nods slowly. That's command. The real kind. We stop outside the hall doors. I didn't understand your kind of service, he admits. Not until today. Not until I watched you save lives without ever firing a shot. I wait. Then he says, the hardest thing I think I've ever heard come from him. I was wrong. He doesn't explain. He doesn't need to. I reach into my pocket and pull out the photo of me and Jace. I hold it out. He believed in you, I say, even when he couldn't say it. My father takes the photo, and for a moment, the weight of everything unspoken, everything broken, rests between us like a folded flag. But this time, we carry it together. The air outside the fleet hall is brisk. Early evening light cuts long shadows across the pavement, painting everything gold and ghostly. I walk out alone. Not because no one offers to accompany me. There are a dozen hands extended, a dozen invitations to celebrate, grab dinner, sit for interviews. But I need this moment to belong only to me. I pass a group of junior officers whispering, eyes wide, trying not to stare too obviously. That's her, one says, just loud enough. I keep walking. At the end of the lot, I find a quiet bench beneath a steel anchor monument. It's where Jace and I used to meet during training week, back before our lives branched into different waters. I sit and look up. The stars are just beginning to bloom overhead. For the first time in years, I let the silence settle without fear. Because this isn't the silence of exile, it's the silence of after. 3 days later, I return to my parents' house. The flag from Jace's funeral still rests on the mantel, but beside it now is something new. A framed printout of the commendation article. The photo shows me on stage, hand on my chest, as Admiral Knox pins the medal. Behind me, my father stands mid-salute. The caption reads, Lieutenant Elena Moreau, honored for bravery in uncharted naval maneuver. He's put it where his own medals used to hang. I stare at it for a long time. Then I turn. My mother's in the kitchen, humming to herself. Baking something lemony. She doesn't say much, just presses a cup of coffee into my hand, the way she used to when I came home bruised from drills. Later, my father joins me on the porch. He doesn't talk about the ceremony. Instead, he asks if I remember the time Jace and I built a raft in the backyard pool and declared war on the neighbor kids. You took command of that mess in 5 minutes, he says, almost smiling. Even back then, you couldn't stand chaos unless it had a purpose. I hated the water at first, I admit. He chuckles. I know. But you dove in anyway. A pause, then. That's what leaders do. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out something small. A gold pin, Navy crest, his old unit badge. I wore this for 23 years, he says. Thought maybe, if you want it. I take it. No ceremony, no speech, just one hand passing something sacred to another. That night, I lie in my childhood bed. The ceiling above me is dotted with faint glow-in-the-dark stars I'd taped there when I was 10. I trace them with my eyes, one by one. I think of Jace, of the ghost map, of every shadow I navigated to find my way back. And I realize, maybe the family I thought I'd lost was never truly gone. Maybe we were just scattered by tides. Now, we've all come home in different ways. Weeks later, I return to duty. Not in a shadow role this time. I'm stationed in a coastal command center, overseeing naval pattern analytics and teaching new officers how to read the quiet signs: water tension, signal delays, echo ghosts. They call it Moreau's Corridor, now, the route I led us through. There's a laminated map on the wall. Sanitized, safe, stripped of all the secrets I once carried in my bones. Still, every time a recruit asks about that night, I tell the truth. We were supposed to die out there. Every calculation said we would. But I had one thing they didn't account for. They always lean in. What? I smile. A memory. And a promise. Because somewhere inside me I knew, even if they called me a traitor, even if they never spoke my name again, even if I had to carry the whole damn thing alone, I would lead them home. And I did. Now, I lead others. Not with medals, not with applause, but with the quiet power of someone who once was buried and rose with a map no one believed in. My name is Elena Moreau. My family called me a traitor, until the Admiral saluted and said, "Ma'am, you led us home through enemy waters. And now, I walk freely in my name, in my truth, and no one will erase me again."